Hello, everybody. My name is Zach Parrish. I'm the programming librarian here at the Bexley Public Library. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Just a couple of quick things. This is a hybrid program, so we're so happy to see all of you in person at the library. We do have an audience joining online at home, so at the end of Annalisa's presentation, if you have any questions, if you don't mind just raising your hand, we'll come around with the microphone. That way those joining online can hear what we're discussing. And for anyone online, feel free to type any questions or comments into the chat at any time, and we will get those asked at the end of the presentation. Today, we are very happy to be joined by Annalisa Rocca, who is the Central Ohio Regional Director for the Ohio Environmental Council, where she leads local engagement and drives community-based environmental initiatives throughout the Central Ohio region. In this role, she connects residents, advocates, and policymakers to advance climate, conservation, and environmental justice priorities at the local level. Annalisa previously served as OEC's drinking water manager, leading statewide policy efforts to protect access to safe and affordable drinking water. She holds a degree in environmental economics and management from Michigan State University. Please join me in welcoming Annalisa Rocca.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach, and to the Bexley Library for having me today. I'm really excited to be here with you all. So today, we're really going to talk about kind of what's going on with sustainability and environmental policy at the federal level, the state level, and how we can really get involved here at the local level, too. So first of all, let's talk about the OEC. So the Ohio Environmental Council is a 55-year-old statewide environmental advocacy organization. We were founded in 1969 by a small group of volunteers who, after the Cuyahoga River caught fire for the last time, were really empowered to start doing something about it. For over these 55 years, we've really evolved into what our organization looks like and our priorities. The mission for the OEC is to protect the environment and health of all Ohio communities through legal and policy advocacy, decision-maker accountability, and civic engagement. We have a wide variety of experts on our staff from different policy areas like clean water, safe and reliable energy, access to public lands, and a thriving democracy. We have a really phenomenal law center at OEC2 and a couple of stellar attorneys on staff. We have an action fund that I'll talk about in a little bit, but that's our political arm. And through the action fund, we do all of our lobbying, some electoral engagement, and some work like that. We have really phenomenal communications and marketing staff, and through all of this, OEC has really found our place in coalition building and statewide grassroots and grass tops engagement. So you can see the vision. So as I mentioned, the OEC has an OEC Action Fund, and so that is our C4 arm that does a lot of our political engagement and our state house work. And we share a collective vision. And our collective vision is a clean, healthy Ohio where our democracy empowers all communities to thrive in harmony with the environment. And then you can see our core values. We are a science-based, equitable, strategic, collaborative, and pragmatic organization. Oh, that's not what was supposed to happen. I think it was my computer. I think it started to fall asleep again. There we go, it's up. I think it just fell asleep. Sorry about that. So let's start with what's been going on in DC. So we're gonna start with the reconciliation bill that was passed a few months ago. As President Trump likes to refer to it as the big, beautiful bill, we see a lot of harm that this bill does, and so we tend to call it the big, bad bill. So this bill really took a hit at the Inflation Reduction Act programs and the renewable energy tax credits for different projects to get more renewable and just more energy in general onto the grid. So through those tax cuts, Households can expect to see an annual energy cost of about $110 more each year, starting as early as next year. You can also see that businesses are expected to see about a 10% per year increase in their cost of energy, which unfortunately will be passed on to the consumers in most cases. And then, we're going through an energy crisis right now. Right now is not the time to be taking away our tax credits and to be preventing energy from entering the grid. We really needed these tax credits and the tax credits and the programs that were in the Inflation Reduction Act. This cutting off of the clean energy development is really going to end up raising our rates, as we've already seen now, and we know that that's going to continue. The bill also rescinds virtually every IRA environmental justice program too. So I'm just going to read off my sheet because there's quite a few here. The Green and Resilient Retrofit Program, the Greenhouse Gas Air Pollution Plans and Implementation Grants, the Environment and Climate Justice Block Grants, the Neighborhood Access and Equity Grant Program, and many more. This is a really important issue to us at the Ohio Environmental Council, and our Action Fund has been doing a lot of work to hold members of Congress accountable. Making sure that we continue to put pressure on them through their constituents and through other outreach to ensure that they know that Ohioans do not support that yes vote on this bill. And we also get to do positive accountability with our members who did vote no on this bill. We get to promote that and talk about how important that is. There also have been some US EPA rollbacks recently, or at least some attempts to. So recently, the US EPA announced that it was going to try to revoke the endangerment findings. The endangerment findings established the US EPA's formal authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions. So what does this mean for us? The endangerment findings are really a prerequisite to regulating emissions from new motor vehicles and new motor engines. So without the findings, the US EPA lacks any statute authority through the Clean Air Act to create and enforce those standards. So what does this mean in Ohio? This means that with these proposed changes, engine and vehicle manufacturers would no longer have to measure, control, or report any of the greenhouse gas emissions from highway engines and vehicles. And then this would also include previous year's manufactured vehicles as well. So this is really important and really critical to all of our climate change work. The OEC, along with thousands of other commenters and organizations like ours, put forth comments that really showed that there are some legal arguments to opposing pulling this back. And I'm not a lawyer, I wish I was, so if you're interested in learning more, they're on our website, or I'd be happy to connect you with someone who understands the legal side of it more than I do. Okay, now the government shutdown that is currently happening. So kind of in the quiet of the shutdown, the US Department of Energy canceled $7.5 billion in clean energy projects. So there were hundreds of projects that were in the planning stages, coming online in the future that have been canceled since this funding has been pulled back. This is going to lead to higher bills for everyone, fewer jobs, and a much weaker grid. The other part with the government shutdown is a strain on our public lands. So while our public parks are still open, they don't have staff right now to do the simple things like cleaning the bathrooms and picking up trash. And so we just ask everyone to please still enjoy your parks, but just make sure when you're there to kind of clean up after yourself. Like we like to say, leave no trace and care for those shared spaces. Okay. And then we have a couple of upcoming water issues at the federal level. So The Great Lakes Restoration Initiative is a bipartisan program that funds restoration, pollution reduction projects, and has other benefits to all of the Great Lakes. This program is currently receiving $475 million per year. It's a really phenomenal program, but every year the funding has to be reallocated and reapproved by Congress. So through a really cool coalition called the Healing Our Waters Coalition, OEC goes to DC twice a year to advocate for this funding to continue. And we get to do this alongside many groups from across the Great Lakes region. And we show up with this really strong message, about protecting our water, cleaning up the legacy pollution, upgrading our water infrastructure. Really big needs across the entire Midwest. The other upcoming exciting water opportunity is the Ohio River watershed. The Ohio River watershed is the largest watershed that receives up until this point, no funding for restoration projects. So a couple of years ago, OEC, alongside a group of our water partners, a lot of us that work on the Healing Our Waters Coalition, got together and we said, okay, we gotta start working on the Ohio River too. So we formed this coalition to take the time to come up with a restoration plan. This restoration plan has been in the works for about 2 to 3 years now, making sure we were really intentional with getting the right groups to the table. Not only are we talking to politicians and community members, but making sure that we were talking to tribes and the people that you wouldn't usually engage here. And through that, we came up with this really awesome restoration plan. And now there are 2 members of Congress, one from Kentucky and one from Indiana, who are co-sponsoring the Ohio River Restoration Plan Act. And that not only has the program laid out, but it also provides funding to this program. And they're advocating for about $350 million a year in funding. So this is a really exciting new opportunity. We're really hopeful that this could go somewhere and help clean up our Ohio River. The Ohio River actually provides drinking water to 2/3 of our state, and the watershed crosses 14 states. So this is a really vital waterway here that we need to make sure that we protect. Okay, so that's kind of what's going on in DC. So let's talk about the State House. So we'll start with our H2 Ohio program, keep on our water topics here. H2 Ohio is the state, and really Governor DeWine is the one who came up with this program. It is the state's premier comprehensive water quality program, and it is administered through 3 key agencies: the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, the Ohio Department of Agriculture, and the Ohio EPA. This program really focuses on reducing phosphorus, creating wetlands, addressing failed septic systems, and then preventing lead contamination through water infrastructure projects. So each agency has a key section that they work on. And we have seen a lot of success through this program in Ohio. But unfortunately, this year in the General Assembly, in the state operating budget, we saw the governor introduced, in his version of the budget, flat funding for this program, which we were really excited about and supported that same consistent funding level that we've seen. Then unfortunately, as that budget went into the state and the Senate, the House and the Senate, we saw significant reductions to what has been allocated to H2 Ohio. And unfortunately, where we really ended was with about a 40% reduction to this really critical program. And so this is a really important program to us. This is something we continue to fund and we continue to advocate for. And one of our really important projects right now is trying to figure out what a long-term funding mechanism could be for a program like this. Okay, now we're gonna switch into some slightly positive policy, which is really exciting. So House Bill 307 is the Lead Line Replacement Act. This bill I have personally been working on for about 2 years now. This is bipartisan legislation that would require the removal of all lead service lines over the next 15 years. Ohio is third in the nation for the most lead service lines. We have about 745,000 all across the state. We are an older industrial state. So in states like Illinois and New York, you also see these problems. So there's a lot of serious health implications linked to lead, especially in children and kids. You see developmental delays and challenges there, and with adults, there's increased risks of cardiovascular and nervous system problems. So this bill, OEC has been working on for, in total, I think about 8 years. So we're really excited. This is the first time it's been bipartisan. So we have Rep. Gerald carries this bill, a representative out of Columbus, and then Rep. Rob Blaisdell, and she is a Republican out of Columbiana County. And they both really care and have really championed this issue. And we're really excited that this legislation has been in the House Development Committee. We have seen really wonderful engagement from leaders on both sides of the aisle, and a lot of strong support for this legislation, which is really exciting. Okay, and then House Bill 15. This is a comprehensive energy legislation that was passed earlier this year. This was a really exciting bill for us, and it evolved over time. And we were really excited that we were able to support this at the end of the day. So House Bill 15 has a couple of really awesome provisions, and that's what I'm gonna focus on and highlight today. This was a really important step in a more modern, fair, and accountable energy system for all of us here. So first, there's some really great cost-saving measures for us. So back a few years ago, maybe almost 10 years ago at this point too, House Bill 6 had, there were coal bailouts in there. And some of these coal plants weren't even in Ohio. I think one of them was in Indiana. So one of the really exciting and biggest wins in this energy legislation was getting those repealed. And this is going to save ratepayers about $90 million per year in Ohio. So this was fantastic. It also really improves reliability by promoting investments in different transmission technologies to receive higher capacity than our existing grid. There's also some really good utility accountability measures, which improves transparency and establishes stronger reliability standards, requiring utilities to use heat maps and track outages at the local level, which will give us in the community much clearer data on the impacts of these investments. There's also some really great provisions for school efficiency. In here, this supports our schools by offering low-interest loans for solar energy and efficiency upgrades. The bill also promotes fairness. It transitions Ohio away from electric security plans, which utilities use to charge customers excessive riders and fees. And it strengthens the transparency of traditional rate cases. The OEC Action Fund was really involved in this process and supported this legislation. Our amazing managing director of energy policy, did a lot of lawmaker education and testified at the State House in support of this bill, along with a coalition of businesses and other organizations that you wouldn't necessarily think would be in the energy space all the time. So this bill actually just became effective August 14th. So right now we're in the rulemaking phase and the creation of the various programs. So soon, hopefully, we'll start seeing the effects of this bill. And there's still a lot of work to do from here. We will do work with utility accountability and ensuring that this is all, and ensuring that everything is implemented. And there's a lot in the energy world that we're working on still. There's some great legislation at the State House around demand response and around submetering too. So hopefully we'll have some more good energy policy coming out of the State House. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what we can do locally. So, all of this is going on. OEC has really realized the value that we have in our local work and our regional work that we do. So we have had a historical regional program in the four corners of the state. And over the last couple of years, with all the growth that is expected to come to Central Ohio, we were like, okay, it's time to get a dedicated local person in Central Ohio. So that's me. I took on this job a few months ago. I'm really excited about it. And some of our priorities in Central Ohio, clean water. We do a lot of work protecting the Little and Big Darby Creeks that are out west. They're some of the most biologically diverse streams that we have. Water affordability, supporting lead service line programs, as I talked about a little earlier. Also do some work supporting affordable and reliable energy at the local level, engaging with cities to help create more energy programs for residents and businesses. And then last, we're really excited to start growing into this new program in sustainable development. With all of this growth, with the data centers coming, it is really important that we meet the development and we just make sure that we are all investing in our communities and that we are doing our development right. The development is here to stay, so we're excited to try to work with it. Okay, and for all of you, get involved in your community. Bexley specifically has some phenomenal programs here. So if you're looking for what you can do yourself, enroll in Bexley's energy aggregation program. Utilize Bexley's free curbside food waste recycling program. Okay, I live in Eastmore, so I'm one street outside of Bexley, and man, am I jealous that they don't pick up at my street. So definitely enroll in that. Go to city government meetings and let the mayor and city council know what issues matter to you. Here, there are so many awesome initiatives, and from a lot of my research, it sounds like a lot of them were citizen-led initiatives. So make your voice heard and engage. And then also check out Bexley's Sustainability Action Plan. And then not just the action plan, there was like a bike plan. There's a bunch of really cool stuff. See what your community is doing to promote their sustainability and start engaging in it. And then get involved with Green Bexley. Green Bexley is doing some really awesome stuff I saw. So this is a community organization whose goal is to assist the city in achieving its zero waste goal by 2040. And they have some really awesome programs. There are some litter cleanups that you can volunteer and be a part of, a lot of Earth Month and Arbor Month events, and then a really cool program called Love Your Alley, which sounds really awesome. And we're trying to transform this underutilized space with native plants and pollinator gardens. So really create that common shared space. And then lastly, get involved with what we're doing at the OEC. This QR code can sign you up for our mailing list if you're interested. We send out some really awesome action alerts so you can take action to tell your lawmakers what you care about and help to advocate alongside of us. Also become a member of OEC. We put on really awesome events, educational, fun, engaging. We have a young professionals program for folks who want to get involved. Great stuff on social media. And then I do put out a quarterly newsletter, so I will put a slight plug for that if you sign up too, to hear all about what's going on in Central Ohio. So yeah, thank you. That is the end of my presentation.
All right, and now we do have some time for questions. If you in the audience have a question, just raise your hand. I'll bring the microphone around to you. And then Leah, let us know if there's any chat questions.
Well, thank you for your time. My question is relating to, I've seen a lot of other states in the absence of federal movements towards awareness about sustainability reporting. Have you heard in your role anything or any movement towards scope 1, 2, or 3 emissions for those that receive government contracts or grant funding from the state or the city?
That is a great question. I do not know. I have not heard of anything, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. I would be happy to do more research and let you know. If you want to connect, I can give you my card, but I don't know of any.
Great presentation, Annalisa. You're really great at your job. I work with Annalisa. So, okay, I loved how you talked about some of these energy rollbacks that are really tough. And I wondered, since you do have such a great background in water, could you talk a little bit about federal rollbacks on water protections and the Clean Water Act?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Carol. So the one thing that I mentioned a little earlier, oh, no, that was the Clean Air Act. So luckily, water tends to be a more bipartisan issue. We tend to see more collaboration here and some more, just working together here, because it's really hard to argue against like your water poisoning you as it comes into your body. So we do see a lot more bipartisan efforts here. One thing we've seen is a lot of funding being rolled back too. The SRF program is our state revolving loan fund, and a lot of money comes from the federal government into the SRF program. The state also puts money into it, and then from there, it goes out to fund projects across the state, like lead service line replacement, like the other projects that we mentioned at H2 Ohio. Unfortunately, we've seen some pretty large reductions to those. Ohio I think Ohio was reduced by $23 million in their water infrastructure funding this year. Which is really crucial. We have a lot of water infrastructure we need to do here. And so that funding is really crucial for us.
I've had this issue before with the green initiatives targeting businesses and residential. The German Greens did not approach it this way. They always targeted the municipalities first. You always target the buildings and infrastructure you already pay taxes on before you give tax incentives for businesses and residents. And I'm not sure why we keep trying to reinvent something that's already been laid out, that's the best way to approach our infrastructure is to so there's no solar on our state houses and our city halls and everything like that. So why do we always have to target residentials and businesses first?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I am unfortunately not an energy expert in this field. So I do not have a great answer for you, but I think that that's a really great question, and I will look into it, and I would love to give you my card and connect with you after this to give you an answer.
So my question was similar. One of the reasons I'm here tonight is that I just read Bill McKibben's newest book. He's been dedicated his life really to environmental changes and especially to the problem of climate change and global warming that threatens the next generation's really capability to continue to live and have the world that we've all had. So I joined Third Act, which is a group. There are some in every state and so forth. Anyway, in this book, which is way more positive than negative, but it does have the dire warnings, which it's become, much, much worse in these last 2 years. We really, really needed major transition to renewables by 2030 in order to slow the rate of warming of the earth, meaning nothing can be done to totally stop it, but a lot could be done to put the brakes on. So in Here Comes the Sun, there's new data that these renewables, especially solar, are so much more efficient. And natural gas has brought a lot of methane in the emissions that have actually harmed the warming. And the other problem is, of course, the dedication of so much acreage to corn that makes for ethanol that is costing way too much to produce. And those are all areas where food could be produced. So my sense was, what are you doing to educate the state legislature of Ohio and our, antediluvian senators who have, clearly no awareness of the reality and the seriousness of this. It's terrible, and I'll just add, in her book, Short Circuiting Policy, Leah Cardamore-Stokes, a political scientist who's at the forefront of writing about the politics of climate change, it has the story of Ohio. In 2007 or 8, we were promised that we would be at 25% renewables in Ohio by 2024. We are still in low single digits. So the advocacy couldn't do everything. The opposition from coal, and because this is a manufacturing state, hugely wealthy and powerful in its organization through PUCO and so forth, which caved and has just really snookered us very badly. And Ohio, we know, is much more suitable for wind, which is also much more efficient and wonderful than it was, and it could be. But I guess, so I'm just saying we can't expect the Ohio Environmental Council to do everything, so I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer about you. I know that you've worked very hard and there was no way to really overcome the kind of organization of opposition. Ohio was late in getting going under Strickland and so forth. But what can we do, and what do you see in the way of grassroots? I mean, there's Sierra Club, there's the Green Party, there's all of these different organizations, and it's almost as if they're working at cross purposes. What would you say to people for what would be the most effective in the way grassroots kind of mobilization to aid the Ohio Environmental Council? And can you develop an office of sort of public citizenship, or where you would be actually working in tandem, which would not necessarily be so dedicated to the PUCO and the agencies and the legislature, but that would be kind of helping to facilitate the organizers and the development of really effective mobilization and backup?
Yeah, no, thank you for all of that. And there's some really great facts in there for everyone. Yeah, it's really tough. So our energy team does spend a lot of time at the State House, which, like you said, though, it can't do everything being at the State House. We do a lot of time educating and a lot of time trying to mobilize our community. But truly, like, local work is a really great way to get engaged. When we talk, our local governments have a lot of power and they have a lot of ability to affect our everyday lives. And so when, if we're hitting these struggles at the state level, let's look local. Also part of this is part of the reason that we created our C4, and our C4 being able to do more of that direct lobbying, but it also engages in electoral work, because if we don't have environmental champions elected and in the State House, then it's a lot harder, and we're always going to play defense. So engaging with our C4 too is a great way to help us get some really awesome elected environmental champions in the State House too. There were some really great ideas about that citizen mobilization in there that I think we could look into how to engage a little bit more.
I've got an email in here.
Yeah, our civic engagement series. Yeah, our civic engagement series is a really great opportunity to get trained up and given the resources to help advocate locally and at the State House too. Yeah.
Was it noon on what is today?
I believe that was yesterday. Right.
So who can attend that? People who are retired.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of folks who are I'm the CEO, so I'm going to jump in, and I hope that's okay. I mean, I feel your frustration, and I am so excited to see that you're reading these books and like getting activated, and I love it, and I hope you continue and join us. We have had a series where we do try to do evening events, weekend events. Noon is a good time actually for folks who are in careers who can step away from their desk, maybe eat their lunch off camera, listen in, and then go back to their workday. So we're trying to find different ways to plug people in. We've really been investing in civic engagement work since last November, especially as much as we can. How can we help folks who really want to make a difference and raise their voices? But it is a difficult picture. Right now, there are laws on the books that require a new solar or wind project. We can't even talk about wind because there's setbacks on wind that basically make it impossible to have wind in Ohio right now. But if you want to have a new solar project, it's got to be approved county by county. And that's called SB 52, that book that has been on the books for several years. So I think what we're seeing now is there's such a spike of demand and coming demand for power in our state that it actually provides an opportunity for, regardless of what you think about the source of the power, you realize we need more power. Well, guess what? The cheapest and quickest to deploy is going to be solar and battery storage. And so these technologies are now becoming the technologies of choice because a new combined cycle gas plant can take years to construct, even if they can get the materials. There's a lot of supply chain problems. So we see opportunities in the midst of a lot of difficulty. And by the way, there are some awesome groups working. Sierra Club is an awesome group. We work with them. There's a group called Solar United Neighbors that we work closely with, and they're very grassroots. Ohio Citizen Action is phenomenal. They're doing incredible work in rural communities all around the state. So become a member, and we'll tell you about all of that, I promise you, and we will put you to work.
Yeah, and I believe if you become a member, you can access our civic engagement series, like the recordings of it. So we do have those out for our members. And one last plug, you mentioned Bill McKinnon's book. We actually did an event, like a sit-down conversation with him way back in COVID times in 2020. So if you're interested, I'm sure it's definitely on our YouTube channel somewhere.
Hi, Annalisa. I just want to say thank you so much for putting a spotlight on what Bexley does. And we are a small community, but we are definitely a leader in environmental sustainability. I happen to serve on Bexley City Council, and I wanted to invite anyone here, if you'd like to join me for a litter and trash pickup this Saturday at 11:30. I'm leading that with the mayor. We'd love to have more volunteers. My question to you on the first couple slides that had nothing but bad news, what are the estimates on how many decades it's going to take to reverse the effects of what is currently going on in DC?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, again, I wish I was really an energy expert here, but I do think that these effects are going to hit us for a long time. Even if we come in and it's going to be hard to undo some of these changes, and it will take time. I don't have an exact year. I don't know if Carol does.
Last year, for the first time globally, more renewable energy was produced than dirty energy. So for the first time, we crossed that threshold. Was that the case in the United States? No. But we globally, I think we continue to see momentum, and there's a lot we can do locally. Like look at the climate action plan that Columbus has, Bexley has, the region has. There's enough of these climate action plans today in Ohio to cover the majority of our population. So there is action happening. It's just unfortunately not with federal and even state leadership at this time.
All right, and we've got a question right back here.
Thank you for this tonight. Just a specific question on Ohio policy. I wondered if you're tracking House Bill 303 about prohibiting fracking under state parks, and if OEC is going to work on that. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. We do not have a specific position on fracking in general, but fracking in our parks we do. So that, yes, that is a bill that we will watch and we will engage on at the right times. We really want to make sure that our parks are preserved for green space for people to enjoy. So yes, we will definitely be watching that.
I'm curious if you could help, I feel like sustainability and the effects on the climate can be like a pie in the sky at times. What are the most tangible effects that we're seeing in our community and in Ohio that are the result of climate change and any inactions that are being taken right now or not being taken?
Yeah, let's just talk about the weather. It's warm outside still, right? We had our second summer that went into October. My birthday's the end of September, and I'm never wearing a tank top and shorts outside. So the most immediate one, our weather. You can tell how it's more extreme. Last year we're going from having no snow to bad snowstorms to it feels like summer in the middle of winter. So our weather is really, I think, one of the most tangible things that you can see and not argue something else.
There was no mention of the Piketon nuclear reopening that I'm exhausted with trying to help with that fight, but I don't know if you guys are involved in that or anything.
Yeah, I don't believe that we're involved in that. I don't think nuclear is really an area that we have engaged too much yet.
I'm glad you mentioned it. I think, so we've been around for 56 years, and I actually asked our first general counsel, Trent Doherty, about this, and he said many years ago, when we tend to go when invited or when asked. There was a citizen group that we did some work with in Piketon because it is a huge environmental justice issue. More recently, y'all remember the East Palestine train derailment and lots of concerns about community health and well-being, and our law center team mobilized in the aftermath of that and did a number of free legal clinics with some partners on the ground there to assist people who needed assistance. They needed help raising their voices and advocating for their well-being. So we definitely do get involved from time to time when invited and asked.
You did mention Solar United Neighbors. We had them here a couple of years ago, and they were wonderful presentation, and the work that they're doing in the neighborhoods of trying to get as many people motivated to update their homes to solar energy. A lot of that was reliant on federal subsidies and tax write-offs that I believe they expired and then they were updated back to 2027. I think they've been completely decommissioned at this point. Is there anything locally, or are there any I guess, is there any relief for people who are still interested in updating their homes to do that fiscally responsibly?
Yeah, so I think there are definitely some community programs. I noticed on Bexley's website that they had some resources to be able to get solar panels on homes in Bexley. And I believe the city of Columbus has some additional resources as well, not necessarily money to help, but resources and like community solar, right? Where we have, and we have groups of when we go in together and try to bring down the cost a little bit. But yeah, most of those tax subsidies and everything have been rolled back or will expire at the end of this year, I believe. Oh, some do go into next year. Great. I am still very much learning my energy topics, so thank you, Carol, for being here for that support.
Are there any other questions?
I guess just one final question. Do you know of any local nonprofits or social enterprises that we can bring our business to or support through commerce to be able to further these initiatives through consumerism?
Yeah, thanks. It's almost like you set me up for this one. So our Emerging Leaders Group is actually working on doing an event around the beginning of December where we're going to highlight businesses like that so that we can really showcase all of them. There's some really good options. There's like the Rewash store in Clintonville. Always buying local is always going to be a better option than buying off of Amazon or any of those big box stores. But I would really encourage you to join our mailing list and sign up for our Emerging Leaders program in particular, so that come to that event.
Kind of in the same vein, does OEC have any page or resources for people running for office so that we know where they stand on environmental issues? I mean, I know League of Women Voters does a whole interview, but people have been sitting that out recently. So I was wondering if OEC had any resources.
Yes, so through our OEC Action Fund, we do endorse candidates who are running for office. So we put out a questionnaire and we ask candidates to apply. So there are definitely great candidates out there that don't have our endorsement, just time and all of that. But yes, you can go to our OEC Action Fund website, and there's some great filters, so you can put on exactly where you vote, and the people in your area will pop right up that we endorse. Yeah, and we have that on our social media, and it's been sent out in some emails too. So just more reasons to sign up for our mailing list.
Annalise Haraka, thank you so much for this presentation and for joining us tonight. And thank you all for coming.